Hello, everybody. Mauricio Garcia here once again. Excited to be able to start yet another Conquistador Podcast. And today we're going to talk about the importance of constant course correction. What is that? We're going to hear from a legend in business, my friend, my partner, Hubert Humphrey. How are you, Hubert?
I'm doing great, buddy. Excited about the show today.
As always, I am excited too. So constant course correction. I remember in one of the big events, I've never really heard the term or the concept, but you mentioned that the astronauts at NASA had to use this paradigm in order to really to be able to land on the moon.
Right. Well, you know, as you study the story of the first moon landing there, the Apollo 11 was off course 90% of the time. Now, you understand, they blasted off. They're off course 90% of the time, but they still landed on the moon. And the way they did that is that they practiced constant course correction. And they used the navigational guiding devices on the spaceship itself, but they also had ties to Houston Control, which was watching everything that they were doing too, and was there with them. So they could make the corrections themselves, but if for some reason they were deviating a little beyond and didn't recognize it, Houston Control was always going to be there to coach them and guide them right back onto it, and so that they didn't burn up excess fuel, and they don't be wandering around space way off course. And the word constant is the key. Is if sometimes you can make course corrections and you can get so far astray and lose so much money and create so much negative problems that you can't even get back to the straight and narrow path, so it's too late. So it's got to be constant. You've got to have something that's, it's like if you're in your car today, nobody has any reason to get lost going to visit somebody today because they've got all these GPS systems that can take them. All you got to do is just follow what it says, and you'll get there. And if what happens if you didn't quite interpret what they said, you turn wrong, immediately it's going to start telling you to do a U-turn, turn here, turn there. Yeah. It says recalculating. That's what we are in life today. We just need in every phase of our life. If our health is not going a certain way, if our weight is not a certain way, if our physique is not a certain way, if our finances are not a certain way, if our marriage is not if our children, if our whatever in life we're doing, we need to practice this principle, not just entrepreneurship, constant course correction. If you're sinning too much, you better, the preacher's going to get you back on the straight and narrow path. You got to repent. It's called repentance.
Yeah.
And so all of this principle is a principle of life, constant course correction.
Yeah, I assume that the astronauts going back to Apollo is that they probably knew this ahead of time because they weren't probably in panic. They probably knew that they were going to need to make these course corrections. And I think for entrepreneurs going in business, adopting this paradigm early can help them not panic if things don't plan out or if any obstacles come in that causes to deviate or to make those course corrections. Because many times it's probably one of the things that frustrates a lot of them, and they just give up because entrepreneurship road is not what they expected. That's one of the reasons a lot of people give up.
Right, and if anybody listens to all of these podcasts and we've been doing for weeks and weeks and weeks now, they'll find there's a common thread that runs through it all, and there's some common things that always tie back together. And in my life and in our business, the models that we've built in the past and certainly are building today at our Hedgeman Group International, our leadership format system is our GPS system. It is our constant course correction system, format system. That's what it is.
Houston Control.
And, it brings them. Well, first of all, the system is the GPS. I'm Houston Control.
Okay.
Eventually, because me or one of my top leaders that have, that really, one of my 12 apostles, so to speak, that know how to preach the gospel out there, they can coach you too. But But the system, if you'll have a submission to a proper system, that starts giving you the constant course correction, because you can't get too far astray, or you can't get to the next step. You go say, well, hey, why am I not getting to step 3? Well, you never created prospect number 1. That's why you can't get somebody to step 3 to a meeting if you've never had a prospect. If you or you didn't do step 2 right, you were not approaching the people right. You were not interviewing them right. You were not presenting a story right, and they weren't responding to what you're saying. Well, if you're not doing that right, you'll never get to a step 3, 4, 5, 6. So it saves you from yourself to do all of that. But that is that principle. Constant course correction is more of a mindset that I want people to have, to carry with them. It's that you somehow or other, it makes you stop and always check your GPS. Am I following the instructions right? I've seen people try to put Christmas toys together for the kids, tricycles, bicycles, and they don't look at the instructions. They start getting all the pieces, nuts and bolts scattered all over the room, and they start trying to put things together. And then next thing you know, they got it so messed up. Somebody comes over and says, wait a minute, where's the instructions? What instructions? I ain't seen any instructions. And you go pick up the instructions. Now you got to go back and undo all that stuff and follow step 1, step 2. So it saves time. It saves space. It gets you to where you want to be. The odds of you being successful go up tremendously if there's constant course correction. So having a system that will be your GPS, mentors, and an architect combined that can help be that Houston control in your life, that mastermind alliance that we talked about last week. Yep. That's what constant course correction is all about. It's just it's repenting and improving. And you mentioned a key thing, Mauricio. People need to start in business knowing how necessary that is. If they don't know how necessary it is, they will get out there and just think being in business is fun and games, and they'll they won't win. So when if you know that you get this in place up front, or you go into a business that provides this for you, and now all of a sudden you're much more likely to have these course corrections and do it, because you knew it wasn't going to be hard, but it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be worth it, and it becomes the rapid. I always say it's the rapid, relentless repetition of successful steps that compound into great success in any endeavor, and the system assures you that rapid occurs, repetition of those things. You got and relentless. It's hard to be relentless when you're stopping and starting all the time, and so it saves you from yourself. And by the way, we all need to be saved from ourselves, not only spiritually, but we certainly need to be saved from ourselves. In our marriage, sometimes our spouse sometimes is going to be the one to help save us. Our children are going to help save us. We're going to need to be saved in our business world by how well we've got mentors and systems to help these course corrections. And if you do that, hey, your odds go up greatly that you're going to succeed in business.
Absolutely, yeah. So 2 things here that I want to dive deeper into it. That course correction is important for you to know ahead of time, because sometimes you're losing course without you even knowing about it. Sometimes obstacles come in, right? That it forces you to course correct. Like you are aware, but then sometimes you are unaware that you are actually losing the direction that you're supposed to be going. And the second thing is obviously that a lot of us, sometimes going in business, we are taught to stay the course, don't deviate at all, versus course correct. So I just want people to understand the difference between staying the course and versus course correct. I think it was explained, but could you dive deeper into it?
Well, right. In reality, they mean the same thing. Stay the course means as much as you can stay on this course. But what it didn't say is that when you do get off this course, get your butt back on course. But staying on the course, and that's why you got to have something that pulls you back. That it's kind of like some little device. It's almost like in my car. I can be driving my car, and it's got all this controls and everything. It's everything but a self-driving car.
Mm-hmm.
If for some reason I'm focused on something else, and I move too close to one of the sides of the road or one of the center lane, it dings and it starts pulling the car back without me doing anything. So it has constant course correction built into this automobile for busy entrepreneurs like me who aren't focusing on the road like I should, to save me from a wreck. And
sure.
So you go. There's no such thing as a human being staying on the straight and narrow path to salvation, a straight and narrow path to success, on course, as they say, 100% of the time. It never has existed. It never will exist. But the person that can do it the quickest by shortening the times you're off course. You know,
Sure.
I tell people all the time that the people in life that can take a charge, a leadership charge, a success charge of energy to be an entrepreneur, and they know what to go do, and they can hold that charge like a battery. They can hold that charge. The people that can hold it for the longest uninterrupted periods of time and stay on the course. But then when they do get off course or lose their charge a little bit, and they go to the emotional sideline to get recharged, but they hold it for the longest uninterrupted periods of time. But then they have the shortest amounts of time that they're off course on the sideline recharging and getting back in the game. Now, that's just the way it is in life. So it's like a football player. You can have an all-pro Hall of Fame quarterback, but if he keeps having to go to sideline because he gets hurt in his leg here, his back hurts here, or what? If he gets distracted, he's got to get himself charged and back in the game, or we're not going to win the thing. We're not going to go to the Super Bowl. Mm-hmm. So you know what I'm saying. You got to keep the player in the game. You got to keep yourself in the game. And sometimes you're going to have to go over and get charged. You're going to have to get course corrected. You know, one other little thing I'll say about it, people that are going to do constant course correction, you got to have a little bit of humility to yourself.
Mm-hmm.
You got to be teachable. You got to be coachable. Don't let your ego stop you from taking advice. It's nothing to be ashamed of if you happen to go off course.
Mm-hmm.
It happens to every human being on earth. That's all.
Yeah,
it
just makes sense. It makes sense because as you are growing, part of the constant course corrections, your mind is adjusting as well. New information, right. New knowledge, new technologies, new everything. So yeah, gotta stay humble. And you hear this from the most successful entrepreneurs in the world.
And Mauricio, speaking of your own mind, do you know that if you really study and train yourself properly by studying people and your mastermind alliance and learning from them, mm-hmm. and you learn it as you do it, you learn it. But as you program your own self, you end up with a lot of course-correcting things inside of you. That little voice that talks to you all the time in your life. You know, everything you do, there's a little voice always talking to you about things. If it's programmed right, in and of itself, your instincts take over. Your muscle memory's there. Your mental and emotional memory will course-correct you sometimes. You just have a feeling. You just have this feeling that you know you're kind of off course a little bit, and it'll wake you up.
Yeah, well, I mean, it's probably nothing to do with business, but I can see with my children right now is I try to discipline them in a certain way, do things a certain way. You learn new information, so you course correct to be able to get to how you know it's better to teach them. guide them
Right.
the best way.
Absolutely.
And so it applies in everything, as long as have a clear path as where you're going, having that destination clarity, and then be willing and have the humbleness, like you said, to be coachable, teachable, and make the proper course corrections. Well, I think that sums it for today, Hubert. I do want to remind everybody to please support the sponsor. But more than doing it for the sponsor, do it for you. Go check out the best opportunity in America today. That opportunity is the opportunity that was created by Hegemon Group International. If you want to go from where you are now to where you want to be, you want to go to that better lifestyle, want to improve everything for your family, go to HCIopportunity.com. There's a full presentation of what that opportunity is, and you'll see why I say that is the greatest vehicle, the best opportunity in America today. HCIopportunity.com. I want to thank everybody for listening. And Hubert, thank you, as always, for adding all this value and sharing with all the driven, determined dreamers that tune in to the podcast every single day. Thank you.
All right, remember, CCC.
Let's go.
Warning, this podcast may change the way you think about business, entrepreneurship, and money forever. The Conquistador Podcast was created for dreamers, entrepreneurs, and leaders who want to conquer their future. To be an epic entrepreneur, you must adopt the right mental paradigms as well as master the art of selling, marketing, and finance.